Hi, my name is Lisa Martin. I am the mother of a child with special needs. He has Fragile X syndrome. In many respects, he has been my teacher. He has made me be a more caring, compassionate, better human being. What we have learned together on our journey, I have realised the difficulties and challenges that parents of special needs children face are wide and varied. During my years of facilitating courses for parents and professionals, I have met some wonderful people who have shared with me their stories of great joy and sadness, who have experienced the good, the bad and the ugly of all aspects of life bringing up their special children. I'm passionate about empowering parents who are dedicated in helping their children with additional needs. You're invited to my podcast. I will be talking about all things in our special world of disability and additional needs. I will be interviewing other parents of children with special needs, as well as professionals and people in the community who are offering services that help. Sometimes these podcasts might touch an emotional nerve and upset you. Other times they might fill you with joy and empower you. I don't mean to make you angry or upset, but we need to get a wider audience listening and talking about disability. Only when this happens, I believe disability won't be feared as it is today. Hello Lisa, welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. I know you're a play worker for children with additional needs, aren't you? Can you tell me how you got into working with SEN children?
I started off as a volunteer in my son's primary school because I wanted to learn more about working with children. During that time there, they put me with a young boy with global delay, and I kind of supported him by prepping him before class. I also did social groups with other children which had problems socialising with other children and building relationships and friendships. So I kind of did session groups where we could talk about it and find ways of how they could deal with it when they went to the playgrounds or out into the community. And then one of my friends introduced me to a charity that did short breaks for children with SEN. So then I became a sessional worker whilst working in the primary school. And I kind of built up a relationship with the child. I kind of opened my eyes to how different children learn, and I then went on to do a foundation degree in early childhood studies, which kind of opened up more interest into children with SEN. So I then wanted to focus on that, but include early years, because I felt that was a crucial part of a child's development. And sometimes a child's disability wasn't recognised at that point. And loads of the parents and children that I've met after that, it was maybe at a later stage where schools had to kind of notice that maybe their child is struggling to socialise, etc. So
yeah, you're absolutely right, because you hear these words, early intervention, and quite often our children don't get the early intervention because they don't get the diagnosis until much later.
yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So
they need a lot more work in the early years.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what I kind of noticed when I was doing my degree. That was quite an important topic of discussion. Like, what are the things that schools were doing at that time when I was doing that degree? And there wasn't much in place, really. I mean, there were Senkos, which did as much as they could, and you had other specialists coming in to kind of support us. So like speech and language therapists would come in to show us some kind of strategies of working with certain children, helping them to build on their memory skills, etc. So we'd do little games and things like that.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you got quite a bit of training.
Yeah, I got quite a bit of training within the schools. Learned how to use communicate in print, to use to create visuals, tailored to each child, because obviously they might use a different thing to communicate. Different pictures meant different things to them. Yeah. I've done more recently done some Makaton training, which has really helped me with my communication skills. What else have we done? Attention autism, which I thought was quite good. Challenging behaviour, so support with challenging behaviour. Positive behaviour management, which wasn't only about the child, it was about the whole organisation itself. So leading from the top down, having that kind of mentality, and then it kind of could be projected outwards to the children and other staff. So those were quite useful learning experiences that I've had. Also working with the parents, you learn loads of strategies from working with the parents, how they cope with certain things, because sometimes the methods that you come up with are not the same methods that they use at home. So it's nice to kind of build that relationship with a parent and learn from them in how they actually cope with any challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, because each child's unique, aren't they?
Yeah.
And what works for one child might not necessarily work for another child.
Which is totally true.
And the parent does always know best, don't
Yeah,
they?
definitely.
So that's wonderful to hear that you, being a play worker who's working, I'm surmising, as a one-on-one for somebody's child, that you liaise with the parent as well, because that's really good for the child that you're both on the same page.
Exactly, and it's also useful for the parent that if there's any kind of strategies that you've come up with that work for you, that you share it with them, because they might not have known that worked. Or say, for example, the child didn't eat certain things, maybe at home they didn't eat that thing, but within your setting or whatever, you've been able to kind of get them to eat maybe an apple or try a piece of fruit, maybe, because some of them just don't like those things. So yeah, kind of working closely with the parent is really, really important. For me, I felt that was quite important, you know, kind of getting an understanding, seeing it from their kind of point of view.
And I think you're right about some you know, a strategy that might work for you and sharing it with the parent, because being a parent of a child with additional needs, sometimes you feel like you've tried everything and that you're in the middle of lack of sleep, you're trying to work, you're trying to navigate a system, and you're just absolutely exhausted, and you feel like you've exhausted every strategy.
Yeah.
But then there might be one thing that you haven't tried. But it's good to information share, and you might think, oh wow, why didn't I think of that? So that's great that you do that as well, because I really appreciate that as well.
Well, and also when you go to certain forums, which I've had to attend, speaking to other practitioners doing the same kind of role, and kind of just like having a discussion about things that you are finding challenging is actually very useful. Like a useful kind of support.
It's really important to be able to talk freely.
Sometimes you find, or sometimes I found that the child might attend our setting and do one thing, but then go to another setting and do another, and do something that all this time they've never done. You're like, oh, I never knew that the child liked to play with sand, or you know, or like to do something. They've never done that within your setting, so it's really good to kind of share. I don't think enough information is shared sometimes, but when there is an opportunity to share, it's really, really effective.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the time, isn't it? You know, because for a parent, the parent knows best, but sometimes the parent and the play worker don't necessarily get to hang out for like half an hour to learn everything about that individual child.
And that's quite true. So it's quite important to compensate for that. What I did was I did a diary. So I said, okay, they arrived today, they were happy. So it's really important to keep the parent informed.
Massively.
So, you know, at least they know, okay, they had a good day today. They know what to expect when they come home. It kind of leads on to the following day. You know, I don't know, some schools do like have a book where they feed things back. Like a communication book where they feed things back to say, okay, such and such, he didn't have a good night's sleep tonight. So then it prepares you.
But equally for you, the play worker, you should be getting that information from the parent
Yeah.
as well, because it works both ways,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
You need
It
to
works
know,
both ways.
you know, what type of mood that
Yeah.
child's in. So have you ever seen anybody give you something that's called a communication passport of their child, or, you know, it's in the child's bag and it travels around with the child, saying what that child's needs are, what he likes, what he doesn't like, what triggers him, how he toilets, how he eats.
Okay, so initially when we do the registration, we ask all those questions. So we should have actually gathered that information beforehand. But if not, yes, parents do provide like an IEP plan or an EHCP plan, which actually kind of tells you those things, their likes, their dislikes, what their triggers are. Maybe it can have some strategies in on how to kind of comfort them when they're actually feeling a bit distressed. Some children need a bit of space, give them time to process. Maybe find a space which is more quieter. Changing the environment really works, like dimming the lights. Just having like a quiet, chill out space where they can feel safe is quite important.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like you're doing a great job. So I'm surmising you do work one-on-one support for children with additional needs.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's that like, working as a one-on-one?
For me, I mean, I really enjoy it because I get to know the child really, really well, and you kind of build up a nice rapport with the child. At times, it can be challenging. However, you know, getting past that challenge is rewarding, both to you and at least you know that the child is happy, and that means quite a lot to me.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Yeah.
So how do you create a positive relationship with any child that you're working with? Because they're all so different.
Yeah.
They're all so unique. They've all got different needs and different challenges.
Just finding out, I kind of focus on what their interests are and kind of gauge things towards things that they like doing. Just experiences. Try to give them as many opportunities to experience different things. That way I can know if they like something or don't like something. Like, for example, I used to have to organise trips for children. One child, we took them bowling. They didn't like to bowl, but they loved dancing to the music. So as far as I'm concerned, that was a positive.
Yeah.
You know, they still got to enjoy the opportunity that was provided for them, which was the trip to go out and just get out into the community. It's just really feeding on what the child likes, what the child wants, how they learn. I kind of really focus on that, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's about what they like to do.
Yeah.
For me,
what
it's
motivates
what
them.
motivates them.
Yeah.
You know, what gets them excited. You know, and that's my focus, really.
So when did you realise that you preferred working with children with SEN, and why is that? Why do you prefer working with additional needs?
Well, when I did my foundation degree, it kind of opened up my eyes that there wasn't enough support there, and I do love working with children in the whole, like as a whole, but I just felt that my passion and my enthusiasm about it would benefit SEN more, I think, because of how I am, like my character and the fact that I do show a big interest in what they like. Like, I'll go home and research something, like it could be a TV programme. I'm not up to date with stuff. I'll make sure that I'm up to date with stuff. Like, I'll go home and sit there and think, okay, this person was talking about, say, Paw Patrol, because that was the thing. How could I engage that in what they're doing and stuff? So,
you're dedicated.
Yeah.
You're basically dedicated,
Yeah.
and I really wish there was more people like you out there to work with children like my child, because because for me, being a parent of a child with additional needs, knowing that I have got a good play worker to work with my child makes all the difference, because we worry all the time about our children. So knowing that there's people like you out there working with our children, it's just a less worry to have.
And also it's quite rewarding that I can help you in some way, because I know that there's not enough help out there. So me doing this extra little thing is actually rewarding to me. It gives me satisfaction because I know that I'm doing that little bit extra. Yeah. Just that little bit, and it just makes a big difference.
Yeah, you're like an angel. You're like an angel. And it's really funny because as you're talking to me, I know people can't see this, but I'm loving the fact that you're doing your Makaton as you're talking to me. So even just talking about Makaton and talking about children, you're communicating to me in a total communication way. Yeah. And that's what our children need.
And exactly. Quite expressive, but and it's also good because I've learnt loads from the children. I've learnt how certain Makaton things to communicate and share with them, and I'm really passionate about it, and so I can get kind of frustrated when there's other people around that are maybe not so much as passionate, but then sometimes I have to take a step back and think maybe they don't have that much confidence. It's something else. Just like when we look at children, their behaviour, some people might see their behaviour as an issue, but it's not an issue. They're trying to tell you something. You've just got to read between the lines to kind of try and identify. They're communicating exactly that. Like, what is it that you want or you need? Like, how can I help you? And I feel that sometimes some people that work with the children actually don't have that understanding. So that can be quite disappointing. Like, not all disappointing. It can be quite saddening to a person. And I wish everybody was as passionate. And
me too. Me too. Being the parent of a child with additional needs, I really do as well. I've met
maybe a handful of people that I could say, are very passionate about caring for these children, because that's what they need. They need just as much love as any other child. And I just think.
Do you think sometimes when you've worked with people like that, it could be a confidence thing as well, because sometimes our children's behaviour isn't the norm, and it can be quite scary, and it can be quite freaky, and it can be quite ugly and noisy.
It definitely can.
So maybe it might just be a bit of confidence as well, maybe sometimes.
I mean, growing through this job has given me more confidence. Because even though I might come across as a confident person, sometimes I'm not as confident, but going through this process of learning with the child and with the parent, it actually gives you more confidence.
Well, I've seen you in action and I think you're brilliant. You really are.
I think it's just a natural thing that just comes with me.
So what qualities do you think somebody who's going to work with additional needs, what qualities do you think they need?
They need to be caring, open-minded. They need to have lots of patience. They need to think outside the box, because sometimes it's not that simple. They need to be very strong-minded.
Thick-skinned. Can't take things personally.
Don't take things personally, because honestly, like, it's really not anything to do with what you've done. It could just be that the parents had a bad day, or the child's just having a bad day, or the child's got a cold, or their routine has changed. It's really just about identifying what's going wrong, and like I said, looking outside the box. Like, I've experienced a parent literally losing it.
What, at you?
Yeah, at myself. I didn't take it personal. I just thought, maybe she's just had a bad day today. But before we'd even left the building, she said, I'm so sorry because of da-da-da. And I just said, you know what, it's okay. I totally understand.
But that is so understanding of you, because you might have had a bad day as well. And you might have just thought, hang on, who are you talking to?
I know, but it's still part of my role. And you've got to be, you know, if I took on everything that a parent said to me, I wouldn't be in the job that I'm in now.
Yeah.
Because you'd just be offended all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you've really got to kind of have a balance and know, okay, they're just having a bad day. And even if they did speak to you in a way that you didn't like, there's a way that you can approach them and say, okay, I didn't like whatever. But really, just don't take it on. Just brush it off. It's just, there's, as they say, there's a saying that they say, tomorrow's another day. So tomorrow's another day. So what happened yesterday happens yesterday. Today's another day. And then just move forward like that. Because tomorrow they'll be like, hi, how are you? And you'll be like, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
So-
But that's wonderful that you can be like that and
Yeah.
be so understanding about the parents, because it is challenging, you know.
Yeah.
You do a job and then you go home. The parents are there 24/7.
Yeah.
And it's we're constantly having stress on a daily basis. And I'm not using that as an excuse to speak to
No, of
you or a
course.
play
Of
worker in any
course.
way. But it's what I'm trying to say is that it's really wonderful that you can see the bigger picture.
And I suppose because I am a parent,
Yes.
but I don't have a child with additional needs, but I'm still a parent. And so I think I have a different outlook maybe to other practitioners that maybe might not have children, or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
maybe they're just trying to learn a new role. So maybe they don't know how they should be. You know, it's all to do with not practice, but having experiences,
Yeah.
facing things so that you know, okay, I didn't do good in that. Reflecting on your practice is something that's really, really important. You know, I reflect on my practice when I do something, I always reflect on how it went,
Yeah.
whether it went well, if I could have done something different, what could I do next time. So maybe something might have happened with a child which was quite challenging. I dealt with it that way didn't work. Maybe my next time, if it happens again, I'll try a different approach.
Yeah.
See if that works. It's just really about trying things out.
It's trial and error,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's trial and
Yeah.
error.
That's
Nothing.
brilliant.
It's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You just have to keep trying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's having stamina.
Yeah, you have to keep
And
trying.
I think because you're really energetic as well, and
Yeah.
that really works. That's a good quality
Yeah.
that you need, because
You need
some
to
of
have
our
the
kids
energy.
with additional needs are fast.
Yeah, very fast.
Very fast.
Very, very fast.
So you've got to be nimble on your feet.
And sometimes you have to think ahead. So once you get to know that child,
Yeah.
you will know when they're going to go and
Yeah.
run off to do this, or you
Yeah.
can see things before they happen.
Yes. And you know what triggers them.
Yeah.
So you're kind of on high alert all the time, I should
all
imagine.
the time. All the time on high alert. It's just about being very observant
Yeah.
and just having eyes in the back of your head.
Yeah. Yeah, and also being able to be able to use your ears and your eyes,
Yeah.
and to observe,
Because sometimes,
because a lot of the behaviour is they're trying to tell you something, can't they?
Yeah.
And you also work with a lot of children that are non-verbal or pre-verbal.
Yeah.
So it's hearing them with your eyes, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Just like one child that I have worked with, non-verbal. However, when you do certain things, he loves to dance to music. So we used to have salsa sessions.
Oh, brilliant.
And I used to be like, dun, 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 dun. Let's do some salsa. And you knew when he was engaged and enjoying himself, because he would stretch himself up in the wheelchair, he'd smile, he'd engage. When he wasn't engaged and, wasn't happy about something, his whole body language changed. So it's just about being able to read different ways of communication, body language being one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they do all communicate differently as well.
Definitely.
And so it's good because you're using a total communication system.
Yeah.
You exaggerate your face. You're using your body language. You use Makaton. You use the visuals. I mean that's wonderful. That's covering a lot of ways
Of
communicating,
Yeah.
to be understood and to understand.
And I'm kind of open to learning anyway. So if I see something that someone else is doing and it works, then it's like, okay, let's try this.
Yeah, of course, definitely. So it sounds like you've had like a lot of training already. which is brilliant. Because I know some people in schools feel that they don't get enough training for the children with additional needs.
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't want the training, because they desperately do, and they feel that they need it. But it's all about the cuts and the funding.
Definitely about the cuts and funding. And what you find is some staff have gone out and got that qualification independently.
So they've paid for it themselves.
They've paid for it themselves. But more recently, like ex-colleagues that I've spoken to, they are kind of trying to push for more training. So they're getting more training, like Makaton, attention autism training, positive behaviour management strategies. And I know that the Senkos and speech and language therapists do come in a lot, but sometimes that's just not enough.
Yeah.
I've been in that position, being a TA in a primary school. Them coming in and doing that part is not enough. Sometimes it's also about you self-teaching, your self-learning. Going out and maybe reading a book, or seeing if there's any kind of courses that maybe you can get on just for your own self-development.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think there's enough. I know that they're trying to, however, the funding is just not there. The cuts are kind of making it impossible, really, for schools to cope with children with SEN.
Yeah.
And I went on a training course about exclusion, and because of the lack of understanding within schools, a lot of children with SEN are getting excluded, and it's so heartbreaking. Yes. That they couldn't identify that and actually find some way or some means of supporting that family. It's just really terrible,
Yeah, this is happening a lot, actually, exclusions, because there's a lot of schools that just haven't had the training, that they don't know how to cope, and they can't meet that child's needs.
Yeah.
So they're ringing the parents saying that we can only cope with this child for a morning or an afternoon, but I think that's illegal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is.
I think I've got a family member who, at the moment, her son's going through a transitioning stage, really challenging, and now got to a point where he's now self-harming. The school in which he's at have thought of the strategy where she comes in, she takes him in, she stays for a while until he feels reassured and safe, then she leaves, but then he's only staying for half day. So then what are you actually teaching that child? How are you teaching the child to cope or try to adapt the environment so they can cope in that environment and feel safe? I don't know.
Is she getting extra support outside of the school coming into the school? What I mean
she's
is
contacted CAMS.
Oh, okay.
She's contacted CAMS, and I think somewhere called the ARC is the CAMS, isn't it? The ARC. Because it's a different borough, because we're Islington, I think it's like a Hackney borough.
Okay.
I think it's called the ARC, which is still CAMS.
Yeah.
She's getting support through them, but it's just the lack of communication, people following it through. And I think she's finding it challenging that, okay, one person has this great idea, like I could have this great idea as a support worker, and then I've passed it on to a social worker. But then that social worker hasn't finished doing their job, their part, and so it's getting lost. And so that child's then getting lost in the system.
That's really worrying, because the team around the child,
is supposed
the TAF team, or now they call it the team around the family, the TAF team, that was all set up so a child wouldn't be getting lost, because all the professionals involved with that one family are supposed to be information sharing.
But if they're not communicating and sharing the information, then it ends up being double the amount of work for the parents trying to get some kind of support for them, and it has a great impact.
Oh, massively.
A great impact on
massively.
the parents,
Because trying to navigate the system, trying to be the PA of your child, all the paperwork that you get, and all the phone calls and the emails and the running around. A lot of parents are single parents. A lot of them have to work as well. And their children are challenging. And it's stress on a daily basis.
It's quite stressful for them.
I can imagine. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, that's okay.
So what's your experience with other care workers? You said earlier on that you don't really come across many people who've got the passion like you have. Why do you think that is? Do you think a lot of people are just in it for the money? But then again, it's a low paid job as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a very low paid job. So, yeah, for some of them, they're just there to do their job and go.
Mm.
But then there's some of them you can see that they're really dedicated and they really care about the families. And they're very enthusiastic, you know, and motivated to kind of, okay, give the family, the child and the family the best quality of life. And that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Every child should have it, like, regardless, you know,
Mm.
and you sit and listen to the news about everything that's happening. There should be just one good thing that happens.
Yeah.
Even if that's, okay, I'm going to take your child for a couple of hours so you can sleep.
Yeah.
You know, it's just giving back.
That's amazing that you feel like that.
And I just,
Yeah, because, you know, parents like me having respite is so needed, and we don't get enough of it. And because of all the cuts and everything that are happening, it's almost like we, the vulnerable, you know, mental health, people with who are older, children with additional needs. That's where all the cuts are happening.
But you know what the sad thing is about those cuts? Is I found out the other day that if you've been allocated a budget and you don't use it, they take it back. But what if you didn't have the help to find that extra help?
Yeah.
It's unfair that they've taken it back because your child still needs that funding.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. They take it back.
Oh, yeah. It's really upsetting for families like me.
Yeah.
And obviously people who care about families like me as well. It is upsetting. So when you do have challenging days, because, you know, our children can be challenging at times, it can be absolutely wonderful at times, and I can imagine you celebrate the little things the same as what we the parents celebrate as well, which is really lovely. But yeah, on a bad day, what do you do to I don't know, to self-care? Do you have a support network where you can go and talk about, you know, your challenges?
Well, I didn't really have one as such. However, I mean, in my previous role, another organisation, I was able to speak to the manager there and talk about how I felt, what challenges I was going through. She kind of advised me how I could deal with that. Also, when you've got a nice rapport with a parent, you can talk about the challenges with that parent and how you're feeling. And it's kind of nice to say, okay, they can say, you know, it's okay, actually, don't worry about that. They actually give you that reassurance that, you know, it's okay to feel the way that you're feeling. You know, like on a day when a child's having a meltdown, you're thinking, oh my God, like, I've tried everything. Just like a parent, you've tried everything and you're not too sure where to go. You know, it's nice that the parent will come and say, you know, actually, do you know what, don't worry, it's okay, he's mostly having a bad day. And then you go home and then you reflect and think, oh yeah, maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he had a cold, or you know,
and he hasn't been able to express
how he's feeling. All he knows is he's got a temperature and he's feeling hot. But he wants you to do something, but he can't actually verbally tell you, this is what I want. Or, you know, you can't communicate it in the way that you would understand. So the behaviour then becomes challenging. But I mean, more recently I started doing African dancing.
Brilliant.
Because I like to dance.
Yeah.
And so I've really enjoyed doing that. And it's a way for me to socialise and just kind of take myself away from the job that I'll do during the day.
Because I know sometimes you say that you can't switch off, you know, especially if it has been a challenging day and you feel guilty, or you kind of, you know, was there something I could have done differently? And that's taking your work home with you. So I'm glad to know that you do the African dance because it's really important to do self-care.
And I think that within lots of like settings, they don't teach staff that.
Yeah.
And they should.
Yeah.
There should be, when they're teaching us about all the policies and everything else and how to keep the children safe.
Yeah. Yeah, the safeguarding.
They should then also
Yeah.
have something about self-care for you.
Yeah.
And if they do already have it in place, it needs to be, people need to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's enough awareness
Yeah.
about in regards to that, you know. Also, I think speaking to my family members that actually have children with autism is quite helpful.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, it's a kind of release. Oh, this was my day, you know.
Yeah.
It was a good day. However, this happened and I didn't know how to deal with whatever. So that's quite good. I like to listen to music. I love music. So music is quite calming. Also, I like to have Epsom salt baths.
Yes.
And just chill.
Nice.
And one of my colleagues told me about oatmeal and peppermint oil in like a sock or something, and you just massage yourself with it. Or I think it's either peppermint or lavender. One of the two. You put it in with the oatmeal.
Yeah.
And you just do like a rub. It's really, really soothing.
Yeah.
And I bought myself like a diffuser that gives scents.
Yeah, aromatherapy. Yeah, I use that all the time as well.
And also when I was working, some of the therapists didn't mind giving me a bit of reflexology or the cranial osteopath when she touches you and kind of draws out all the energy.
Reiki.
I think so. I'm not sure exactly what.
Yeah.
I mean, I just tried it for the first time, so that was really, really good. Kind of made me feel at ease.
So it sounds like you've got some great strategies on how to keep your energy levels up and just how to feel good in a challenging world. Yeah. And that's really important because I don't think the parents get enough of that because of, you know, they're constantly running around after their children, not getting enough respite and things like that. But also you, the carers, the play workers, the people who are working with our children.
Yeah.
Also need to do a lot of self-care as well. Because you've got to keep your energy levels up.
And it's quite important. I think when I was managing the staff, it was important that they had a break.
Yeah, very
have a
important.
bit of time to go and come back and feel refreshed, you know, and ready to start again.
Yeah.
You need to have that little break so that you're ready to start again.
Get out, get some fresh air.
Gather
your thoughts.
Have
a few deep breaths.
Yeah, and then just
ready to
and then
start
go back
again.
in it because if you don't have that, it can be quite draining.
Yeah.
And you can feel quite stretched.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
Yeah, you can feel quite stretched if you don't have that little break.
Yeah. So you've worked in different places. In each place that you've worked, have you felt like there's been the right level of support for you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I've had to source out levels of support when I worked in a smaller organisation. However, within a bigger setting, where there's other support staff doing the same role as you, then you've got a bigger support network.
Yeah.
However, when it's maybe a smaller organisation, there's not much room, or you might not feel comfortable talking to that person or expressing how you feel because you feel that they might not understand.
Okay.
Maybe that they don't have that understanding because they've not done your role.
Right. Yeah, that must be hard.
Yeah, like if they've not done your role and they can't put themselves in your shoes, then sometimes it's hard to kind of feel that you've got that kind of support.
How does that make you feel when you're not feeling supported and you've got such a challenging job like that?
Quite hard, quite isolated, frustrated. You're unsure because you're not sure whether that, you know, whether it's something natural that you should be experiencing certain things that you go through.
Yeah, because you've got no one to talk about.
Because you've got no one to talk.
You've got no one to bounce off.
No one to bounce off. No one to say, okay, well, they've had that experience, so it's something normal.
Yeah. So it must make you feel like you're going a bit potty, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have been in a place where it has been quite challenging, and I thought I was just losing it.
Yeah.
But like you said, I've got those things in place, like went African dancing to release the stress. had a good relationship with parents where I could actually talk about, you know, how I was feeling, within reason, obviously, but, you know, and, you know, having family members.
That's brilliant. It's really good that you can recognise when you feel that you need to do something fresh, to do some self-care, instead of just kind of keep going and going and going, and then you get to a breaking point.
Yeah.
So good for you. I'm pleased about that. So when you're out in public with, when you're looking after a child, and you're taking them out, and you're going to the cinema, and you're going to the park, and you're doing some really lovely things with that child, how do you feel about the general public? Do you feel like you get judged sometimes, or the child gets judged?
I feel like the child gets judged, and then I feel angry because I feel like there's lack of awareness out there. Like, why can't people look past certain things and try and be a bit more open-minded? Not just see that one thing and think, oh, that child is being naughty, they have, they're throwing a tantrum, there's more to it. And I think because I know the child and work with the child, it's like I have a better understanding. Like, one time I took a child to a paddling pool, and the child was having a great time, and I was like, oh, he's having a great time. And it was splashing about because that's what pools are for. And I think another child got splashed, but the kids were playing. So to me, it was just a form of play. But the parent was like, oh, that child, da 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 da. And literally, I felt very protective over that child. And so I was like, I had to actually go and tell the person that the child is autistic, but I felt that I shouldn't have had to tell them that. They should have known.
Yeah.
And so it's quite frustrating, or they should have been a parent, really, and think it's a child, like they're just playing.
So do you feel that quite often you feel that you have to educate the public?
Yeah, I feel like I have to educate them, just, make them aware that actually he's got an additional need. It's not that he's just behaving badly or having a tantrum or, it's getting better, because I've had, other incidents like the cinema where he did whatever and nobody moved, nobody said anything, nobody reacted. They just sat down and they kind of understood that maybe there's something more to that child.
Well, what was he doing?
Oh, first he was dancing in front of the screen. The music was playing. He was dancing. Then there was like a slope where he could get up, so he climbed up on top, not in front. So he was in front of the screen, touching the picture, and I was at the bottom going, "Come down," and obviously couldn't get his attention. And I was like, okay, I've got to find a way of getting him down. But it was so nice that the actual cinema staff was understanding, the parents, the children were understanding. That was actually a really positive experience to the opposite one where you got a reaction like, oh, what's that child doing? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Like they showed no understanding. And I think that was more upsetting for me, that they didn't try to understand. They'd already made their judgment.
Yeah.
And you should never judge a book by its cover. Like, you don't know. You need to open it. You need to explore it. And I just feel that they don't kind of take the time.
Yeah.
To do
it's like
that.
the iceberg analogy, isn't that?
Yeah.
So you can only see a third of the iceberg, because there's 2/3 of the iceberg that you can't see underneath the water.
Yeah, but
and that's like our kids, really.
They just see
isn't
the
it?
top. They just see the top.
Yeah.
They don't
know
the
what's
layers.
going on underneath.
No.
Yeah.
They just don't know. But there has been, what they need to realise is that a lot of children with SEN are misunderstood.
Yeah.
And also underestimated. They're very, very smart and, very unique. And they're just like any other child. And it's just that their needs are different, really.
Yeah.
And people just got to understand that. Once they get past that,
do you know what? The world would be a really
It would
boring
be-
place if we were all the same.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of. That's why I think why I wanted to do this podcast is to get more people talking about additional needs,
Yeah.
to take the fear away, because I think a lot of people are frightened. They don't understand, and we need to talk about neurodiversity, because we're all different. We
Yeah.
all do different things, and we've all got. You know, I call it our little isms. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
isms
we've all
and
got like a
schisms,
little thing that we do
Yeah.
to help calm us, or things that we do we're just not even aware of. So yeah, thank you for being wonderful.
Oh no,
And,
thank you.
I just wish we had so many more people like you who really do care about our children, because like I said earlier, it really takes the worry away
Yeah.
for parents like us, because we worry all the time, especially when our children can't talk.
Yeah, because you don't
Yeah,
you don't know,
They
like,
can't tell us what their day's
Yeah.
been like.
and so you rely on us to,
Yeah.
you know, say, okay, this is their day, and that's why it's also important that they're honest when you're having a challenging day. There's no point me coming back and saying to you, oh, I've had a great day, it was fabulous, it was this and it was that, and then you encounter something where it's quite challenging. You're thinking, well, he's just had a great day, so why is he like this? So it's really important for practitioners to be open and be like, okay, we had a good day up until this point, and if we didn't have a good day, this is what happened, and this is when it happened, and this is why we think it happened, because you don't actually know. We're not going to definitely know why it happened, but you might have an idea, and it's just important just to kind of bear that in mind when working with children with SEN.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Like I say, I wish there was more people like you.
Every day's a
in
different
our lives.
day.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing
okay.
your side of being a play worker and the good, the bad and the ugly.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Actually, Lisa, I've got one more question before you go. What's your favourite activity that you like to do with the kids?
My favourite activity is messy play. I just love that you just get down and dirty, and it's just fun. That they could just explore and, be free in their play. I just love it.
Yeah, it's great for the senses, isn't it?
For
It's
the
a sensory
senses.
play.
It's a sensory play. I like that they can be creative, because I like to be creative myself. And messy play is my top activity that I enjoy doing.
I've seen your amazing creation stations,
Yes.
and you come up with some amazing ideas. And what's really great about your creation stations as well is that it's really accessible to all levels of developmental levels for different additional needs.
And that can be quite hard to do, but
Yeah.
Like we were saying before, trial and error, or just learning, or just basing it on that child's likes and dislikes. Like, I made a boat. I made a boat because the child liked the wind and the willow. And so we sat in the boat and he rowed me around and we became characters, and it was just all about imagination. It was great.
Brilliant.
Child at heart I am, I think.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because I loved talking to you, because it's one of the good parts of the good, the bad and the ugly. Because, recently I'm hearing quite a lot of the bad and the ugly.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear some good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a good guy.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for taking the time to join me today. To find out more about what I do, visit www.specialworldtraining.com and follow us on our Facebook page, Special World Training, Instagram and LinkedIn. I believe knowledge is power and strength is in numbers. And if more people get involved in our special world, we can all make our world a better place. Join me next week for more amazing stories from the good, the bad and the ugly.